what I do want to talk about, since we're here, fuck it, let's just go straight into it. We'll talk about the Liverpool game straight away. We'll get into it. Liverpool game, the United game, United versus Leicester, which is on Saturday. Um, Talking about big clubs, big money. Um, this is a big game for both clubs. I think both clubs haven't done. United are still amongst it. You can't say United not a title race. They're 2 points off the top, but not performing to expectations, losing to Villa. Leicester have just had a wild ride, and where do they sit now? I think they're the 12th, maybe. They're same below Spurs, so
12th,
that's
13th.
something. The 13th, 3 losses and a win, and 2 draws. What's going on at Leicester, man? Is this their lull season? Is it, they performed at a very high level for 2 or 3 years, just after winning the title a few years before that? Is this the end of their cycle, and is Brendan Rodgers to be trusted with the rebuild?
It's funny because I thought that I kind of thought that Leicester would struggle to score goals this year and be a bit more solid at the back, but it's kind of the opposite has happened. They have leaked too many goals. And it's probably, you can't say that, that's the injury to Fofana and that's the reason why. I think they've just been a bit sloppy in big moments and they're giving away soft goals. They've got 9 goals this season, which is great. I think 6 of them have come from Jamie Vardy. So they're still relying on that guy who's a great player, Jamie Vardy, but he's 34 now, or 33 at least. So he's getting to the end of his career, and he's a player who relies on his pace. So that elite level from him could drop fairly suddenly. But I think that it's been a bit weak at the back. 12 goals in the amount of games that they played is too many. I think I was just trying to have a bit of a quick look here, but it looks like only Newcastle, Norwich, and Leeds United have conceded more than them. So that to me is their problem, and I think it's more a mentality thing. They've also had a few hard games, so they have had a hard run of fixtures as well. So that could be reflected in there as well.
Well, that's the Rodgers of Liverpool, I guess. In a sense, we'll just outscore the opponent, and maybe the team dynamic naturally inclines towards that way. When things are going wrong, you just kind of, okay, Vardy will get us out of this. Suarez will get us out of this. And when you have Sturridge and Suarez in that form, yeah, they're going to get you out of it. But unfortunately, when you have a disjointed backline, losing one of your best players, and then relying on a 36-year-old who scores a goal a game, things just don't balance out too well. Now, United are, in a sense, a similar story. They were going quite well, and I've kind of reflected over the last week and a half of the international break, and I think I do wonder. I think about it like more and more. Does Ronaldo fit in that team? And I'm beginning to think he does. He does fit in the team tactically, but does he fit in the team in the sense? Does it break down the momentum? Is there too much reliance? Is it too much of a focal point? And players like Sancho and Cavani, who undoubtedly can play quite well, not getting a chance because the biggest football superstar ever after Maradona is in the team.
I think the question for me is he getting I don't think he's getting enough of the ball, frankly. And it's not that they need to look for him every single time they get in the box. I think they have a problem getting the ball to him. And I think that transition from the midfield to the attackers is something that needs to be worked. And I think Bruno Fernandes needs to start dropping deep a little bit more and maybe looking for Ronaldo a bit more, as opposed to what he did against Leeds, which is basically play as a second striker. I think Bruno might need to go just back to being a bit more of a creator. I think the player combinations in the wide areas haven't suited him. Mason Greenwood seems to have turned into an Iron Robin and just try to score every time he gets the ball. I think that balance of Bruno trying to find him a bit more with his creativity and how they use Pogba and Sancho in those wide areas, because Pogba's basically become a left winger now. Marcus Rashford will be back soon as well. How those combinations work, I think it's not that they're ignoring Ronaldo. I think they just lack the quality to get the ball to him in the dangerous areas. And if you look at his goals, Bruno's given assists. There's been ones where goalkeepers have dropped the ball. There's been a couple of sort of like headers from crosses and things like that. But I think they've struggled as a whole to get him the chances they need. And I think that's the problem. Creating those chances and not leaving themselves exposed at the back as well. Leicester are a team that will exploit United when United lose the ball, when the passing chains break down. Leicester have the weaponry to expose United that way.
And that brings to the next point, I guess. These are the kind of games I think Leicester have 2 world-class midfielders. and Didi and Mendy. I mean, those are the type of guys, man. They're gonna find it hard to break down. Sorry, they're gonna find hard to get past, and those guys are gonna have a field day. Now, in that sense, that will be my argument for playing McTominay and Matic instead of McFred. I think that's something that Ollie has to think about because, I mean, it's just scary. It's just the mistakes are now turning. Now, the mistakes at one stage were not turning into goals, but they're turning into goals now. Fred's mistakes.
And particularly with, and I'll just jump in quickly, particularly with Varane seems to be out, Maguire seems to be out. So bringing Matic in is going to be quite important for that solidity.
Yeah. Do you think United play to win every game, but do you think that's a realistic option this week?
Um, I think that they may actually decide to sit and hit on the counter a bit, just given that they are a better team in transition. I think they need to stretch Leicester as well. I think how they get the combinations out wide are very important. I would want Jadon Sancho to play on the right, just stretch the team out a bit.
Mm.
Luke Shaw needs to be given a bit of freedom down the left as well. I think that United need to keep their shape and focus on counter. Ronaldo is still very good on the counter attack. And when you've got the wider players that can support those things and keep that defensive structure, I do think that United may have to go back to that. They've tried at times to play this passing, take the team on, sometimes have Paul Pogba in the two in front of the defense type of mentality. I don't think that they can do that in this game, particularly because it's an away game for United. It is at Leicester. I think that United need to focus on keeping the shape and cutting down the errors and then trying to take advantage of Leicester's errors.
Yeah. And as far as Leicester's going, this is more of a kind of existential question to Leeds, but Jamie Vardy, I mean, he can do it. Do you think he's going to do it for years to come? He's 36. I think he's scored the most goals after turning the age of 30, and he's only been in the league for 5 years or something.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Do you think he can carry on what he's doing?
I tend to worry about players that rely on explosiveness as they get older. It's kind of one bad hamstring injury away from not playing in the Premier
Michael
League
Owen,
again.
the great story of Michael Owen. Yeah,
I think he's a great player. I think that he will be. I think that by the end of his career, he'll be known as one of the best strikers to play in the Premier League, deservedly. I just tend to think that when he falls off, he'll fall off quite quickly.
Yeah, and this fixture, man, I do think as well. This fixture brings about very, very kind of classic battles. I remember last year in the FA Cup, Leicester took the piss. Big United 3-1. The fixture before that was 2-2.
Yeah.
I believe end of last season, Jesse Lingard scored a goal in the very last minute to put United through into second, and Leicester didn't put United through second. Leicester lost the Champions League. So classically, this fixture, if you told me 20 years ago Leicester United was a classic fixture, I'd be laughing at you, I'd slap your face. But I think this fixture is going to throw up some interesting storylines, whoever the winner is, because United win this game, it's like, oh, United are back in the race. Leicester win this game, it's like, oh shit, Leicester's is not down and out, even with the injuries that they have and the kind of performance having this season. And the last question I want to ask on that point, you didn't answer before. And obviously, we got a lot of questions in there, but is this Leicester's lull season, or do you think Rodgers has lost his touch with the team?
I would.
Or do you have an opinion on that? A separate opinion?
I think it's a little early to make that call with Leicester. I'd like to see how they go in the next few weeks. If you look at their fixtures after United, Brentford, Brighton, Arsenal, Leeds, and then they start going. I think they got Chelsea after that as well. So I think that they've had. If you look at the teams that they played, so I'm just pulling it up here. So I've lost it there. So they've played City already. You know, they've had they played West Ham as well, who played quite well. So they played and Brighton as well. So they've played some teams that have done quite well so far this season. So I would just wait a couple of weeks. I think that the next after this game, they've got 3 quite winnable ones, and it will depend on that for them. I think they will be stretched as well because they do have midweek fixtures in the Europa. I'll hold my judgment on that yet. I just want to see them play some of the easier sides and see how they go. But they will need to win those games, I think. Otherwise, it will be a lull season.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but United as well, Leicester, Atlanta, Liverpool, City, and Chelsea. I think that's the order they're playing in. And then they have Atlanta again the double Champions League fixture. Could you just see those for me?
Yeah, so Leicester, Atalanta, Liverpool, Tottenham, Atalanta, Man
Tottenham.
City, Watford, Villarreal, Chelsea, Arsenal. So um,
Jesus.
that's a brutal stretch. And to not have
I mean, that's
Maguire
for
and Varane,
the you know
not have
for the
Maguire and Varane,
viewers.
to me, there's a lot of
Yeah,
questions there. Fred out of
yeah,
form, that axis is going to be very severely tested. The thing about
yeah.
United so far this season, they're only 2 points or whatever off the top, but they've had easier fixtures. The teams above them,
Mm,
Liverpool, City, and Chelsea, have all played each other twice. Out of the
yeah,
sort of 4 games that you can play already, United have to go and
yeah,
play all those teams. So
yeah.
that's the worry, that United should actually be a little bit ahead and can afford to lose a couple of those games, but they're
Mm,
really sort of in there and balanced. And I do think we sort of talked about the hierarchy of those big four. I think Liverpool, Chelsea, and City seem to be sort of there or thereabouts. I would put Liverpool at the top, actually. I think they look very good to me, and then it's probably City and Chelsea, but I think there's more of a gap to United.
mm,
I think that United still, there's no style. It's all, like you said, relying on individual moments of brilliance, as opposed to the other three teams, which have quite a identifiable style of play. And
mm,
particularly in Liverpool's case, quite a strong first 11 as well. You could almost pick most of Liverpool's players from game
yeah.
to game. City and Chelsea are a bit more like chess pieces with their tactical managers, but with United, that style and that ideology, that's kind of what Ollie needs to bring in. And there's been a lot of pressure on his coaching staff over the break. People have been talking about sort of the backgrounds of the players that have come in, or the coaches that have come in. They're all sort of ex-United players or Ferguson's old men. Ferguson wasn't afraid to, he didn't. I forgot the name of the fella, but when he was at Aberdeen, he was beating Rangers and Celtic, and he didn't bring Archie Knox, I think it was, his old assistant manager, over, and then he got Brian Kidd in, then he got Steve McLaren in, then he got Queiroz in. He wasn't afraid to upgrade his assistant managers and bring in better coaches and coaches a bit more suited to today's needs. Ollie
Mm,
hasn't really done that. I think Ollie,
yeah.
on the man management side and on the leadership side, is actually quite good, but I think he's getting tactically found out, and I think that it doesn't mean that he has to go develop tactically. He can bring that experience in. He needs to
Yeah.
bring someone in who's a bit more, someone from the German school or the French school, that's got a bit more of that tactical nous and can try and do things on the training pitch and make calls
I
during
mean,
games.
that's really well put because they're kind of the architect of the '06 to '11, that period where United, probably the most successful period in modern history of any football club. René Malmsteen was the architect. He came from the Dutch school, which was he was quickly shoved away when Moyes came in, and I think he's got a kind of sour taste in his mouth of ever coming back. Because I heard that he was kind of tried, he was coaxed into coming back a little bit when Ollie took over, but yeah, that didn't come through. But look, man, I'll finish off on this. United have a big 8 games to go, huge. Besides Watford, they'd be kind of looking to Watford and for a bit of respite. If things go well. But if there's any man for the big moments, it's Ronaldo, and he's proved it time and time and time again. So I think he'll be desperate to play most of those 8 games, and I think you're going to see a different type of Ronaldo come up that you haven't seen the first kind of 10 games of the season
When
so
you've looked
far.
at his goals, they've all either been equalizers or goals that put his team ahead. He's not scoring the
Hmm.
fifth goal in a 5-0 win. He's scoring heavy
Yeah,
goals. So
yeah,
not only is he scoring, he's scoring important goals.
yeah, yeah. I think we'll end it there, man. Lovely, lovely chat as always. So we have the big one, Newcastle Spurs and Leicester United for this weekend. Thanks so much, Sham. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We are the 5 Yard Pass podcast. My name is Suri. This is Sham. Keep football simple, and as always,
Keep passing, guys. Cheers.
cheers.